concept was kind of a wild experiment from the start.
Because in theory, it's the reverse of what you're supposed to do with hops to get maximum aroma.
Mash hopping as a concept hasn't been really thought out as far as like what is its benefit. I think people have tried it as ways of maybe mediating hop creep or improving lagerability. Maybe they thought it was bringing aroma, and possibly it is in other contexts. But what we're doing is using it as a way, as a method to kind of feed our yeast more precursor and build in more thiol potential in a recipe.
Now you can use hops in the mash in order to increase your aromatics, which again sounds crazy because the earlier you use hops in the process, it's thought that it's there for bittering capabilities. But the interesting thing about using them in the mash is now some of these more complex versions of the thiol precursors are now presented to the enzymes that are present in the mash, and they can process them into a version that's more accessible to the yeast.
By mash hopping, we're actually introducing those soluble precursor, which are not aroma compounds until they're basically accessed and biotransformed by the yeast. So that precursor stays through the entire process. We're just adding it into the beer in another way, which we found to be really accessible to the yeast.
So one of the neat things about mash hopping is it's going to allow brewers to use hops that are maybe a little easier to obtain, or they're cheaper, or they over-contracted on. For example, Cascade hops are very, very high in precursor. So you'll be able to use Cascade hops in the mash in order to extract these tropical notes. You can use Sots, for example, which a lot of times you use in kind of traditional European lagers, but you're going to be able to use those hops in this unique way in order to draw out these tropical notes.
It's really just yeast food, and like all these thiol precursors that you introduce into it really give you more flavor and aroma on the back end than you realize.
We think the use of mash hopping coupled with our thiolized strains is going to give brewers more avenues to explore. It's just a very new technique used in a way that's kind of counterintuitive, and I think brewers are going to have fun with that.
With the mash hopping, it's helping us get more aroma, and aromas we never would have had without the enzymatic reaction happening. And then when it works with these yeast strains, it has to be the thiolized yeast strains. It'll give us more aroma. And at the end of the day, that's what we all want.
I would say in a typical beer without this thiolized strain, probably not going to help you a whole lot. But adding all of those precursors in your mash and then in your kettle and having this yeast strain unlock all of that really gives you that extra punch of flavor and aromatics.